The Bite of the Mango, Chapter 3. I had prayed before, sometimes as often as 5 minutes a day, prescribed for Muslims in our holy book, the Quran. The mosque in Maghbaru was a house made of red clay. At night, kerosene lamps and tiny candles cast the light. We had a village imam who conducted the prayers and gave sermons. Marie had instructed me how to pray for happiness, for a nice man to marry me when I was older, or for a good harvest for that year. The only thing I ever really prayed for, though, was a pretty new dress. Every year for Eid, which marks the end of the Ramadan, our fasting season, Marie would present us kids with new clothes that she had bought in Port Loco, a city about a half-day's walk away. I loved having a new docket and lampa, a two-piece African outfit made from cotton. Prayers worked, that much I knew, for I always did get a new outfit for Eid. After Adamsi disappeared into the house with the rebels, I closed my eyes and began to pray, and pray, and pray. This time, it wasn't for new clothes. Please let me die quickly. Let it be over quickly. Let my family, if they have been captured by the rebels, all die quickly too. Don't let the rebels cut my body piece by piece. I prayed hard, so hard my head began to throb. When I opened my eyes, there was a group of rebel boys staring right at me. If I hadn't been in their red eyes, their guns, and the knives in their hands, it would have been like opening my eyes after counting to 100 during a game of hide-and-seek and finding the village kids smiling in front of me. I felt dizzy. My eyes wouldn't focus. I stopped hearing things and my vision went too. I passed out. When I came to, the first thing that struck me was the music. It pounded in my head. The men and boys were singing along to it, some even screaming lyrics that I couldn't understand. Above the singing, the rebels were yelling some words to each other that I recognized only later. When I moved to North America, Rambo, Red Eye, Killer, I had to pry my eyes open. They were cracked shut from my tears mixing with the dirt and dust. At first, all I could see were red and yellow shadows. I could feel heat on my body, like the hot sun in the middle of the day. But as my focus sharpened, I realized that the shadows and the heat were from the bonfire of the villagers. Possessions I was raging now, so big I couldn't see the village anymore. The men and boys danced before it in silhouette. I was lying on the road where I had fallen. My hands were now untied, but they were numb from having been shackled by the rope for many hours. I still managed somehow to gather fistfuls of the dirty, dry, red earth, which I rubbed into my hair, face, shoulders, and legs. If I am dirty, the rebels won't want anything to do with me, I told myself. Take her to the river to clean up. The man who spoke Temne bellowed. I hadn't seen him, but he was there behind me, as he had been from the beginning. He barked his order to 4 boy rebels. Wait, I pleaded as the older rebel pulled me to my feet. I have to pee. Please, can I go pee before you kill me? And the man let go of me and stepped back. But we're not going to kill you, he said in a small smile. We're going to take you with us. You're pretty. There are things you can do for us. But I thought you said you weren't capturing anyone else. I lied, said the man. Don't know where it came from, but I had a feeling earlier that this rebel wanted me to go with him in the bush and to raid other towns. When I first saw rebel girls doing the cooking, I momentarily pictured myself frying cassava alongside them. Okay, I replied. All I could think of was to play along with the plan. I will go with you, but let me pee first. The man stood back and motioned for the boy rebels to come forward. Watch her, the man told me. Don't let this little one run away. I like her. He ran his right hand along my cheek and he stepped away. He winked. I shuddered. The rebel boys let me go inside the outhouse alone. I was surprised and grateful for the solitude. I sank to the ground and cupped my face with my hands. I didn't know what to do. I could try to escape by making a dash for the bushes, but I He'd have to run through the open soccer field first. I remembered the smirking faces of the boy rebels after they had killed the pregnant woman. The boy standing outside the outhouse would wear the same smirks. I felt sure after using me for target practice. So I could go with them. I decided in a panic, but I didn't want to be one of those girls. My body began to shake. A knot formed in my throat, choking back tears. I straightened my back and slapped my cheeks. Pull yourself together, I admonished myself. You will outsmart them. Go with them. Act as if you like them and would never run away. But then run away when you have a chance. Thoughts of Adamsi, Ibram, Muhammad, Marie, and even Ali flooded into my mind. They stood in front of me, smiling. I said goodbye to them all. Please help me, Allah. I prayed again. Let me find a way to escape. The rebel boys had started shouting. What is taking you so long? One demanded in Temni. I didn't bother to answer. I came out a few seconds later, turned and walked back to the man giving the orders, with the boys trailing me. The older rebels stood talking to another man, someone I had not noticed before. The second man had very light skin, almost white. The two were speaking Creole. Their arms were flailing. They were shaking their heads, and their faces were red with fury. As soon as they saw me, they pointed my way. They're angry about me, I thought. I knelt down in front of my captors, lowered my head, and waited. I wanted to show the older rebel that I would be obedient. Okay, little one, said the rebel as the second man walked away. Get lost. We don't want you after all. I wasn't sure I had heard the words correctly, so I remained still. You can go, the man repeated, waving his hands this time. Go, go, go. I stood up slowly and turned my body toward the soccer field. Wait, the rebel hollered. I stood motionless as a couple of boys grabbed guns from their backs and pointed them at me. I waited for the older rebel's order to shoot. Instead, he walked in front of me. You must choose a punishment before you leave, he said. Like what? I mumbled. Tears I could no longer hold back streamed down my face. Which hand do you want to lose first? The knot in my throat gave way to scream. No! I yelled. I set off at a run for the soccer field, but it was no use. The older rebel caught me with his big arms wrapping around my belly. He dragged me back to the boy rebels and threw me to the ground in front of them. 3 boys hauled me up by the arms. I was kicking now, screaming and trying to hit. But though they were little boys, I was tired and weak. They overpowered me. They led me behind the outhouse and stopped in front of a big rock. Gunfire filled the night. The rebels were shooting up the village, I assumed, and probably everyone left in it. Allah, please let one of the bullets stray and hit me in the heart so I may die. I prayed, I gave up the fight, and I surrendered my fate to the boys. Beside the boulder, a shirtless man lay dead. Smaller rocks lay around him. With the shock, I realized it was the pregnant woman's husband. He traded goods from town to town, like the man who had given me the palm oil. The woman who had been killed was his second wife, and the baby would have been his first child. Now the man's face was nothing but a bloody pulp. I could even see parts of his brain. The rebels had stoned him to death. Please, 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 don't do this to me, I begged one of the boys. I'm the same age as you. You speak Temne, so you might be from around here. We would have been cousins had we lived in the same village. Maybe we could be friends. We're not friends, the boy scowled, pulling out his machete. And we're certainly not cousins. I like you, I implored, trying to get on his good side. Why do you want to hurt someone who likes you? Because I don't want you to vote, he said. One of the boys grabbed my right arm, and another stretched my hand over the flat part of the boulder. If you are going to chop my head off, please just kill me, I begged them. We're not going to kill you, the boy replied. We want you to go to the president and show him what we did to you. We won't be able to vote for him now. Ask the president to give you new hands. The boys steadied me as my body began to sway. As the machete came down, things went silent. I closed my eyes tightly, but then they popped open and I saw everything. It took the boy 2 attempts to cut off my right hand. The first swipe didn't get through the bones, which I saw sticking out in all different shapes and sizes. He brought the machete down again in a different spot, higher up on my arm. This time my hand flew from the rock onto the ground. The nerves kept it alive for a few seconds, and it leapt from side to side, as trout did when we caught them from the river. Before we knocked them on the head and killed them to cook for our evening meal. I had no energy left as a boy took my other arm and held it down on the boulder. It took 3 attempts to cut off my left hand. Even at that, some of the flesh remained and hung precariously loose. I didn't feel any pain. Maybe that was because my hands were still numb from having been tied together for so long. But my legs gave way. I sank to the ground as the boys wiped the blood off the machete and walked away. As my eyelids closed, I saw the rebel boys giving each other high fives. I could hear them laughing. As my mind went dark, I remember asking myself, "What is a president?"